Welcome to Echoes, where we teach filmmaking and restorative journalism. Today is our interviewing and documenting workshop. First, we start with watching and critiquing a film. This gives everyone a chance to settle in and focus. Once we're settled in, we do circle practice. Then we begin to meditate, with Sugar Ray leading a guided meditation and debrief, which is sometimes the best part. Now it's time to get to work. Today we're teaching the different roles in a multi-camera interview set. For roles, we have interviewer, main cameras, BTS camera, audio, floor manager, and of course, interviewee.
Good.
Then we eat together, and we get to watch back footage. We end with what we call the closing jar, basically a final circle round saying one thing we take away from the day. Another day of creating peace, beauty, healing, while looking fly. See you next time. Peace.
Hello, everybody, and good morning. Welcome to the JustUS Youth Talk Show. This is Season 4, Episode 5, and today we're talking about digital storytelling for social justice. My name is Rachel Moser, and I am the associate producer for the show, and I am also your host today. And in case you are new to the show, here on JustUS Youth, we're dedicated to engaging youth and communities on critical issues surrounding youth justice, alternatives to detention, conditions of confinement, and pathways to positive reentry for young adults. And today we have some really special guests with us. So we are saying hello to Echoes of Incarceration. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining today. And to get us started, just for our introduction, I was wondering if each of you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Echoes, maybe where you're from and how you got involved with the project.
I can start by giving the backstory a little bit. So my name is Jeremy Robbins, Director of Echoes of Incarceration. Excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So just Echoes is a nonprofit based in New York City. Our primary work is training young people who have had a direct connection to the criminal justice system in filmmaking and advocacy. And we create documentaries and video journalism about the impact of mass incarceration on youth and just all the different ways young people in the justice system interact. It started back in 2009. I was a teacher. I was teaching video production in New York City public schools. I just like kind of go around to different schools and was doing residencies. And then separately, I had a video production company working on a lot of topics, but I was some family connections, and I was working a lot in the criminal justice reform movements in New York City. And in 2009, I was basically asked to make a short film about the impact of mass incarceration on children, so specifically parental incarceration, the experience of kids with incarcerated parents. And I was like, hey, I came from this background of youth media. Rather than me produce this piece, why don't we gather a group of directly impacted young people and have them produce the piece? And so the people that hired me were excited about this. And so we did it. And it was originally just a one-off film. We called it Echoes of Incarceration. And I think this one we finished, it just got a lot of traction, and the partners who had worked with us just kind of got excited in seeing the potential for more storytelling that came directly from the experience of young people. So they just encouraged me to continue and gave support in terms of incubating the project and relaunching it. But you spent about 6 years working specifically on the issue of parental incarceration. And then kind of broadened out to looking at all the different ways young people in the justice system interact, whether it's school policing, street policing. We talking a lot about restorative justice and kind of alternatives. We look a lot about emerging adult justice, so 18 to 25-year-olds in the justice system. And I guess what it looks like now is we kind of have a 3-tiered organization. We have what's called the introductory level is like a summer camp, and this year-round intro film workshops. We focus a lot on kind of mindfulness and meditation and circle practice, kind of giving a safe place for people to land and kind of get their feet wet in kind of the joy of being creative and storytelling and filmmaking. For those who are serious and want to like, hey, actually want to know how this works, we have a 14-week intensive professional filmmaking pathways. So it's like a freelance training. So you go deeper into all the different
Mm.
skills, and then we also have a production company. So you get placed in doing like kind of paid jobs around New York City, working, putting those skills to use. And then when, like I said, like then we have kind of what we could call our core films. Our core work is these kind of more ambitious projects or series that really tackle some element of the criminal justice system. It's like, hey, what can we as a film team and comprised largely of young people who have been directly impacted, what can we do that like a professional filmmaking production company couldn't? What perspectives could we bring in? What kind of is there a level of humor or energy or direct connection? Could we tell our own stories, our friends' fan stories, our neighborhood stories, and just kind of tell those stories in a way that can sometimes be hard to bring to life. I think what we just watched now was our introductory level. That's one of our year-round introductory workshops.
Okay, I was curious what was happening
Yeah,
in the
where
video.
that
So
fit
yeah.
in. Yeah. So that's a little bit of context, and I'll maybe pass it to Linda, who's kind of our senior producer, kind of joined before we had kind of broadened out our scope to say a little more.
Okay, awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear.
Yes, we can.
Little technical difficulties over here for a second, but I think
That's all right.
okay. So just kind of a little about me and like how I started.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I was impacted by the system, by like my mom's incarceration and also my brother, and like a whole bunch of other immediate families, but those two are the ones that kind of just impacted me more as a youth. And I heard about Echoes, and through channels immediately like it joined Echoes, and I've been a part of Echoes for about like 10 years now.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. But
It's a long time. Yeah.
so yeah, just like telling my story, I felt empowered to do. And yeah, now we're just here, just like showing stories, interviewing people, kind of just spreading awareness, and doing a lot of community work, and just supporting the community as much as possible, and like really trying to hear the stories of young people and like their experience and how the system impacted them, and like having conversations to kind of change or improve the system that's already in play, I guess. Um,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Yes. We can move on to Samantha or Sam. I don't know what you go by. Do you have a preference?
Either is fine. Thank you so much for asking. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So my name is Samantha. I'm 20 years old currently. When I first started Echoes, I think I was 19. Um, I had came home. I was impacted personally. I was on Rikers Island for 6 months. I had came home into a shelter, our children, and through a long line of networks and stuff like that, the Independent Records Commission had reached out to Echoes of Incarceration to do a series of videos to help the closure of Rikers. And I was one of the interviewees. And then from there,
Okay.
I just started working. Like I just started with Echoes. I absolutely love Echoes. It's like a second family. They're so I don't know, like it's like all the people you wish you had in a room is in that room. Like whether
Yeah.
like the constructive criticism is there, the I wouldn't say hand holding, but they're like Linda, she's very if you need help, she'll help you. She'll see if you know how to do it first, but she's definitely gonna like look up. And the other senior member as well. They're very helpful when it comes down to it. Like you don't feel like you're there alone in a room full of strangers that you just met. And when I came home, that was my main problem. Like feeling like, I'm coming back into a world that I just don't know. Because, 6 months doesn't seem like a long time. But when you're away from like, and the world is constantly changing, like it hits you pretty hard. Um, but Echoes is like a safe haven for that.
Yeah. My impression, like hearing all of you speak about this, is yeah, Echo seems like its own little family going on, that you all really have each other's backs and like you're empowered to share your stories and you have that support to do that because it's really difficult. It's really difficult to talk about it. Our society isn't always very welcoming to these sort of topics, and there's a lot of judgment that goes into it. So I love seeing the sense of community around it. And then, kind of, Jeremy, tying into what you said, just creating a space where you're getting real tangible skills to tell these stories and sort of bring that out into the community is, I don't know, you guys are doing some really cool work. And I appreciate you touching on all of that. And Samantha, you mentioned Rikers, I think is what it is. And I think later I'm going to ask about that in the Q&A a little bit because I'm from Chicago. I'm not as familiar with it. But it's something I saw in some of you, like your promotional videos, and it sounds like something that's you guys are really working on right now or have been in the past. So we're going to touch on that later because I'm very curious about what's going on with that. But we will move on a little bit. So, can each of you speak a little bit about what it's been like sharing your stories and maybe what's been challenging or rewarding?
Yeah. I feel like sharing my story has been super rewarding. At first, if you're not used to like activism work, you're not used to public speaking or anything like that, it can be a bit like intimidating or challenging to go in front of people and kind of be
Oh,
vulnerable.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
definitely, it was definitely challenging. I would say still it's challenging. I'm not really like good at like speaking a lot and I get like nervous and all in my head. But what's rewarding about it is just the impact that it makes. And I guess I'll just give an example of like um I told my story on like how as a youth I witnessed my mom's arrest and just doing the work and really like advocating for just the child sensitive arrest protocol that was passed recently. And it just basically like wants like the police or officers to consider children when making an arrest and kind of prioritizing their their mental well-being and their physical well-being and making sure we're limiting trauma. And I think which is super very important. I feel like people
Yeah.
or like the system doesn't realize the impact that witnessing a parent's arrest can have, not only traumatic, like it's traumatic for the child, but just how they view the police or how they're viewing their parents, which can also damage relationships and so on and so forth. So yeah, just kind of like telling my story and like getting something passed like that, I feel like was super amazing, and it felt like a good accomplishment and a good achievement to have, and just it's just another reminder that telling your story and doing this work can be rewarding, and it can ultimately create change and help the community. Pass to Sam.
Thank you, Lindsay. Um, I have to agree with Linda. Like at first, it is very like nerve-wracking. Um, but since Echoes was like the first set of people to like genuinely like sit down and like interview me, and they were so careful. Like if you don't want to answer any of these questions, like you don't have to answer.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, they weren't like the first interview, like the first couple interviews. It wasn't like super deep, but like it was it was like after like watching my own interview, I'm like, wow, like I feel inspired. And that's my own interview, like just going going through all the phases with Echoes and stuff like that has been just rewarding in itself. All the interviews I had, like I got to interview former judges and correctional officers,
Wow.
and like
Yeah.
it it was like surreal in a moment because it's like I was just sitting in the jail that they retired from, and like here I am interviewing them. Like I honestly I
Mhm.
never thought I would be where I am today. Um
Mm.
and just like I don't know, like just the whole situation is just rewarding, even though like the ups and the downs. The path ups and downs that echoes. Like you said, we have meditation, we have grounding techniques we use now. Like it's it's so helpful. Like even if you have a bad day, you can't have a full bad day. Halfway through that day, you're gonna wind up breaking. Like you're gonna like just being surrounded by such surreal energy. Like it's so hard to explain. So hard to explain.
You're saying it's hard to explain, but I'm getting it. I'm hearing it. So you're doing a good job.
And I'll just chime in a little bit on those. For each of them, so Linda, she talked about these child-sensitive arrest protocols. One thing I didn't mention is we're very fortunate to partner with some amazing organizations that both do policy work and advocate and kind of do the hard day in and day out work of helping to draft legislation, getting legislators to sign on and get co-sponsors and push them through, and then also actually doing trainings. So that project was an organization called Osborne Association, and they were going out and just training like thousands of police officers around New York State about the importance of just like do a couple of things and like be aware of that a young person is watching. How do you not traumatize a young person unnecessarily during that moment?
Wow. Yeah.
And so Linda told her story for that. And we then went up, me and another producer, Karan Benson, went out to Buffalo, which is the first department who really embraced this training and got their stories. And then it became kind of mandatory to be an accredited department to kind of go through this. And then there was a bill to make it mandatory for New York State, and Linda did a lot of work and kind of speaking up about her story around the passage of that bill. And so
Mhm.
yeah, now like Linda's story and all these young people's stories, like I think there's like 6,000 NYPD sergeants who had to go through this training last year and hear the stories of young people who are watching their parents
Wow.
arrest. Um,
Wow.
so things like that. So part of both I want to shout them out and also kind of shout out our partners who do a lot of that work. Um, and then just to Samantha's point, yeah.
Yeah.
So Rikers Island, for those who are not in New York City, that we're kind of obsessed with Rikers Island here, but it's like it's a jail. It's like right now the only jail complex. So if you get arrested, you're waiting for trial, you get sent to this like stinking hellhole that's incredibly violent, incredible dysfunction, understaffed, just and so there's been a big push to close Rikers and replace it with borough-based jails and just modernize it, kind of reduce some of the worst impacts of it. And Samantha has been a big part of that. We're doing a whole series of films we're actually hopefully going to release in the next few weeks. But yeah, one of the great joys of last year was watching Samantha sit down and get to interview correction officers and prosecutors and judges. I think that's part of it. It's not just you have to stand up and tell your story, like tell the worst things that you've gone through, but you also get to be behind the camera and help kind of craft the storytelling. I think that's an important piece of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So what I'm hearing about echoes from all of you is there's such a sense of empowerment going on from these really awful experiences. Like it like provides an opportunity to sort of feel empowered and actually plug into the community through that resource and really start to make it change. Like I'm just blown away at the way that your stories have directly influenced the incarceration system and really challenged and been like, hey, you know what, this is wrong. We're hurting people. Um, Such as, Linda, you talking about witnessing a parent be arrested. These are really awful things that stick. That trauma has a lot of influence that will carry through. And so I just love seeing that this project, not only it's like a personal sense of empowerment, but you're empowering anyone that's been touched by this system. So I want to know from you all, what is one thing that you want people to learn from your story? It can be a few things too. One's a little limiting. If you've got more ideas, I'm here for it.
Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe um, one thing I would want people to learn from my story is, I guess, like incarceration or like just the impact of it. It doesn't just solely impact the person who's being arrested or who's being incarcerated. It impacts, it's like a domino effect. It does impact, the family and the friends and the people around them, caregivers, etc. Um, and these are things that we have to be mindful of, and really take into account when doing arrests. Um, Also, just like, I guess just the importance of like sharing your story, I feel like, is another thing. But like in our community we have similar stories, but everyone's story is really just unique to yourself, and I feel like it's very important to just kind of share your story. And Yeah, like I don't know, I feel like also, just to put it out there, because this is something that I learned while being at Echoes and like doing the storytelling stuff, is just like
Yeah.
incarceration, all the issues like police brutality, like all these things is not normal. And I feel like in our community, we see it so much that we become numb to it and it becomes normalized. And not, and I realized since I've been a part of Echoes that it's not normal. This is not something that we should just accept. This is something we need to speak up about. This is something we need to fight against and start to, really want change and speak up about change for this, for us. Because, yeah, we're the ones who have to, we're the ones who's dealing with it most. Like, we're seeing it, black and brown people are seeing it the most.
Yeah.
And it's just not okay. And I feel like that's really the main thing I want someone to take away from my story and others, is like, all these things, we can do something about it, and we might feel powerless at first. But if we come together as a community and we speak about these things and really come up with a plan, we ultimately want the same things. And we can't just sit back and just normalize, the trauma, and normalize the just the bad, like, basically the bad treatment. Because, we're
Yeah.
all deserve we deserve better, and yeah, we should just, come together and just really speak up against the things that are happening here, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Beautifully
Samantha,
said.
Samantha,
Thank
you're
you.
muted.
I'm muted.
Yeah, now you're good now.
K-
Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. I had got a call. My bad. But I feel like one major takeaway I want young people or anybody really just to take away from my story. I feel like there's like a few biased thoughts that I lived through, like, oh, you're a young person, like you don't understand the true meaning and like trauma behind stuff. Like,
Yeah.
just because I'm young doesn't mean like that takes away anything. And I felt like I wish I had something like Echoes when I was younger, because I don't think I ever would have got incarcerated if I had a group of people, genuine people that I could look towards. Because hanging out with the wrong people is what got me where I was.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, like, a lot of people in our community especially feel like if you share your story, or if you tell a certain thing that happened, that's deemed snitching, or you're not supposed to say certain things, but it's your story and you should tell it, because you don't know how many people, how many grown adults, how many family members, how many kids we could be scrolling on the internet, and that could be their escape. Like, wow, this person in their story showed me that it's okay. And I want people to look at my story and be like, damn, like, not only is she young, she's a female, she's out on her own. I could do it. If I did it, you could do it. Anybody could do it. Like, that's what I want to be received from my story, just like motivation. And also, like Linda said, it really takes a village. Like, it takes a village. And New York and everyone, if everyone stands up at the same time, they can't deny everybody. Like, we all have to be on the same page. Whether We want the same things, whether we live in the same neighborhood. Our children, you know, kids go to the same school, play at the same parks. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, it's just, I feel like I shouldn't, even me as a grown woman, I shouldn't be scared of the police if there's somebody we're supposed to call when we need help. Who are we gonna call if, you know, the police brutality situation goes on? And that's
Yeah.
a reasonable understanding as to why the community feels unsafe. But now my thing is, sometimes, to play the devil's advocate here, police officers are human too. They have their own daily, you know, troubles and tribulations that they're going through. That does not make it okay for them to take it out on civilians. But I feel like, you
Yeah.
know, like, similar to the training about the arresting for the children, mm, like I don't know how much training there needs to be in order for the community to feel safe, but maybe we could sit down and talk about that at the next board meeting. I don't know.
It's fair. Gosh, I appreciate you both so much sharing all that. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy. Hop in.
I guess I'll chime in.
Yeah.
I think the takeaways. They did a great job explaining that.
Yeah.
I think one thing over time, I find us kind of drifting towards. I think it's super important to call out what is wrong. I think it's super important to call out injustice. I think it's, you know, the whether it's abuse of police officers, correction officers, court systems, just laws themselves. I think partly just because it's kind of dark and heavy and depressing to just do that year in and year out, and we have such a positive community. I think also I think we're shifting over time, whenever possible, to be like, okay, what is actually going to work? Well, how do we actually replace this with something better? Because those aren't always, you know, sometimes it's just getting rid of a terrible law, but you actually got to deal with some of those really tough problems. So I think we're increasingly looking at, you know, like highlighting, like what does it actually take to make, you know, to end their school to prison pipeline? What does it take to replace suspensions with restorative practice? It's not easy. Anyone who's been a teacher knows it's not easy to really get that to work. What does it take to keep communities safe? What does it take to actually change cultures of violence? So we're kind of trying to highlight, you know, some of the things that actually do work. And I think and then a lot of it's just like, hey, if we want society to do this, can we actually do this? Like, can we actually have a restorative community that's functional? Can we, you know, we have to be basically running a production company. We have to be running a you know, film school. Can we work together, be ourselves, make mistakes, deal with our own crises? So I think with the year, I think in terms of, I don't know if it's the one takeaway of Echoes, but I think increasingly it's like we just did a workshop at this big conference, and it was like, hey, we could show a lot of films, or we could be like, hey, let's actually just share some of the things that have actually worked for us. Because it's really hard to be in a community that's not punitive. It just is. I think it's not a mistake that these things keep happening. So you know, it's one thing to call them out, but it's a one thing to actually try to figure out. So I think increasingly, I think I'm personally drawn to how can we uplift things that do work? How can we strengthen movements that are working towards restorative practices, to you know, practices of healing, practices of you know, accountability rather than punishment. So yeah, I think if I were to, so in terms of you know, takeaways, I think that's kind of becoming a recurrent theme.
Absolutely. Listening to you all talk, I'm hearing a lot of, I guess, like the essence of it is just like really use your voice, get loud about it. You can't be ignored, especially if we're all doing it. And I also love the concept of like highlighting what works, because the system does feel very heavy at times. And like, where do you go from there? But I love that idea of focusing on what's working. Here it is. Let's look at that and let's run with it. So we are going to be back in just a second. We're going to take a little break and we will come back to our conversation.
Introducing Next Generation Media Internship Program, designed for undergraduates, postgraduates, unemployed, dislocated workers, and WIOA participants. Our program offers remote virtual work experiences, qualifying as approved individualized career services. Learn while leading at your own pace, with part-time or full-time hours per week. Benefit from weekly debriefings and group supervision, along with our 15-minute masterclasses. Our projects include the Justice Beat Talk Show and the JustUS Youth Talk Show. Discover your gateway to success today.
All right, everybody, welcome back. All right, so for our audience, I wanted to ask, what advice do you have for youth who want to share their stories and for adults who want to support these stories?
I guess I could go first.
Go for it.
For the adults, I feel like I feel like people put like entirely too much thought into, hey, like, how do I do this or whatever. If you want to find a nonprofit and you just want to, I don't know, you want to help fund or you want to help a better cause, do that. It doesn't take millions of dollars. You don't have to be super rich. You don't have to go and outside with a sign every day. Like, all you have to do is listen. All you have to do is listen to the youth. All you have to do is make the youth feel like they're heard and do what they ask you to do, honestly. Like, that's the only thing we ask for. Give the youth more outlets. Like, give them more places like Echoes, more places like other organizations who help. Like, if you give them an outlet, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna think about using it before they think about doing something else. Like, you just have to implement. If somebody tells you that they're here long enough for you, you're gonna open your eyes and soon realize, hey, this person is really here for me and they're in my corner, and no matter what happens, they have my back. And for the youth, I feel like, I don't know, just get out there, do whatever you want to do. If you like painting, paint something justice related. It don't even got to be justice related. Just paint something. Like, do something constructive. Don't let these barons that we got put on us by society like define you. Like, you're not who people think you are, who people say you are, and who people talk about you. Like, most people talk about you because they want to be you.
Love that. I love it.
Go ahead, Linda.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So what advice do you have for youth who want to share their stories and also for adults who want to support these stories?
Okay. I guess some advice I have for youth who want to share their stories is one, it's okay to do so. I would say definitely, and this is for both adults and youth, just kind of like prioritize your mental health, and just kind of mentally prepare yourself to tell your story, but also take care of yourself after. Because what I've learned with telling my story and other people who tell their stories is that um, you're being vulnerable and you're literally going through the experience as you're telling your story all over again, which can bring up a lot of negative stuff. It can bring, emotional trauma that was buried back there, and it can bring it to the forefront. And sometimes when you are sharing your story, there's some people or some organizations or whatever that don't really pay attention to things like that, and so now you're just kind of like, told your story and now you can go about your way. And I feel like then we have to sit here and deal with like what comes up on our own. So I guess I'll just say, like, maybe lean on lean on each other for that support, when things do come up, and also just for the adults to just kind of make sure we're prioritizing just some tools to help people who are telling their story, especially young people, and kind of help take care of that or them after that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of like support young people in any way possible, like just meet them where they're at. I think Sam brought up a really good point about like combining advocacy and art, I think is super important too, whether it's music, whether it's actually painting or something, kind of creating spaces for young people to come and be themselves, and just be artistic or be whatever, but also just in like aware, like bringing them, I guess, like informing them that there is like things that's going on and that they have the power to empower their community, if that makes sense, and just kind of give them the choice to want to. More than likely, a young person is going to want to uplift their community, want to change things.
Yeah.
Kind of just overall, just giving them the space to do so, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'll chime in on this because this is something that I've just been talking about a lot over 17 years. In fact,
Mhm.
so I'll kind of start with the pitfalls. And I think actually
Okay.
one of the main advisors who helped us start Echoes, one of their concerns was like, oh, it'd be great. Like there's this woman who was doing all these amazing trainings for teachers, social workers, lawmakers, correction officers around parental incarceration. And there's nothing more powerful than having a young person tell their story. Like it just like you could sit there and look at graphs and statistics and data, but if you hear somebody's story, it's going to sink in if you're in one of these trainings. But
Yeah.
and she was like, okay, but yeah, yes, but it's so hard to get young people there in all these rooms and then take care of them and make sure that it's done well. And I would say, it's like, is the young person ready for it? Are they open to like, are they in the right place in their life? They want to tell this story. Is their family okay with this? Is like, what's the repercussions of them kind of blurting out their dirty laundry? And then like who's in the audience, who's listening, is a like I think Samantha, we talked about the Samantha when we first met her. Two of our youth producers went and to her space, or her organization space, and did an interview with her, and she just talked about how awesome that was. And we were just talking about how different that would be if you were like put on stage at a gala and a bunch of people in tuxedos and told to like tell us about the worst thing that's ever happened to you in like this worst 6 months, and then they're sipping champagne, and then maybe come up afterwards and give you some unsolicited advice, or just tell you, or like, what did your mother do, or like tell ask you what the crime was. And there's so many
Yeah.
ways in which there's so many ways in which telling your story can be empowering and uplifting and cathartic, and there's so many ways it can be traumatic and damaging. And I just think it takes a lot of thought and care about it. So I think like we're kind of slowly been putting together these lists, and we sometimes do little trainings on this about just like I think just like again, I was list out some of the other things that go wrong. Our same mentor, who Ann Adelaide who passed away a couple of years ago, but she would do these trainings. She told the story about like a young person who was in an incredibly toxic relationship with their incarcerated father, and so she was up in front of these correction officers, and she kind of just realized it while she was speaking. She's like, yeah, actually, I think I'm going to cut off my father, not end my relationship with them. And that's totally her truth. That's totally great. But then the officer's like, oh, I guess we don't need to prioritize contact with children because this is a toxic, like maybe these parents shouldn't be parents
Yeah.
anyways. And they got the exact wrong message from it. And she was telling her truth and she was being honest, but that was not the right context and the right moment for that. So I think just like really thinking, taking time, I think doing it in community helps. Like whenever possible, we'll send an entire, crew to be on a panel or to like speak about something or to do interviews. So you're not just there alone as a kind of like the exhibit. If I think just preparation before, preparation of the room, like really not just keeping it open to like random comments or unsolicited feedback. And then a lot of aftercare, just being like checking in with people, just being aware of what that's like afterwards. So yeah, I think it's just lots of caveats about it's that youth voice is great, but it has to be done very carefully and very deliberately and thoughtfully. Because yeah, and I guess just outside, like we didn't really do like fundraising event, like live fundraising events, for like 10 years, because like I'd been to those events where someone just has to go up on stage and share their story, and it just always makes me incredibly uncomfortable. So we
Yeah.
have to, we had to really think about like carefully about like, just like how, just fundraising itself is a huge way in which stories are often really misused or kind of manipulated or, kind of
Mhm.
exploited.
Yeah.
So yeah, just put it, I just want to, I didn't want to walk away being like, hey, everybody tell your story. It's always great. I want to be a big dose of, grain of salt about how to how to think about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you want to go about it like with a mindful sense and a protective sense as well. Um, and I don't know, I just really just hearing you all talk about this, I just really appreciated honestly the simple advice of just listen. Why is that so hard for people? I don't understand. Um, but that's something I'm taking away and kind of holding with me through this conversation, and I'm sure our listeners are too, just hearing everybody talk about all of this. Um, wanted to say, so we are going to do a Q&A here in a minute, but I did want to ask, just out of pure curiosity, what's the big project you all are working on right now? What's going on behind the scenes, or what's taking up your mental energy these days?
Oof.
Maybe
With
it's a big
this Rikers
question.
project, we have the 6 episodes of this,
Okay.
the reasons to close Rikers. Samantha was a producer on it. Linda was the main narrator. Linda, you want to say anything
Okay.
about what that's about? And then both of you.
Yeah. Well, narrating has been interesting and great.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
I've heard from other like similar feelings that I feel when I'm like hearing my voice on video or like whatever. But
Yeah.
it is rewarding just because like, I think it's a good series. Like you said, like this is a prime example of what the series can do. A lot of people in New York know about Rikers just because this is where they're from.
Yeah.
Some people are really living under a rock even if they're here, but there's other places who are not aware of Rikers and the impact that it's having. And we just want to basically spread the awareness of like the impact of how a kind of like a place that is created like that, like just the negative impacts that can come from that. And then
Mhm.
showing how like if you really come together, we can convince, you know, the people in the community to stand up and like let people know that this is not a good space for people to, go in and wait for whatever it is that's happening or go through the process. And there's a better
Okay.
way to go through this, and there's a better way for people,
Yeah.
and a faster way and a safer way for people to just kind of wait out whatever it is that they're waiting for. And so it's just informing people just the impact and like the new plan
Yeah.
to create borough-based jails. It's closer, it's more convenient. Hopefully, it's like less of a caseload for everyone involved. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the videos. At least
Yeah.
probably missing a lot of parts, but I guess.
That's okay.
And then I'm just the one narrating.
I'm like, that is intimidating to do the narration for that. I can see it's a new process. I'm sure you're doing amazing at it though.
In
She
front of
is.
So
for sure, but like having to listen to you speak and like whatever is all of it just gives me a little, even after all these years, a little like like a little cringy. But overall, it's for
yes.
gotta deal with it.
Really, no, it's all worth it. So it's a 6-part series? Did I hear that
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right. Just like all,
Okay.
yeah. So it's we're collaborating with something called the Independent Rikers Commission. The city council voted to close Rikers, I think 2019, and at that point they created a
Okay.
commission to get all the different stakeholders together to get all the concerns and draft a plan to safely close it and to build these borough-based jails. And then COVID
Okay.
happened, and our last mayor was very much dragging his feet on it. And so a lot's changed, and they made a new kind of trying to remind, re-energize, refocus the city on this job of closing Rikers, which is kind of already behind schedule. So that's where they kind of
Okay.
brought in Echoes to like, hey, can you create a series that's lively, that's energetic, that brings in some humor, just kind of like can get people's attention, and also brings in lived experience on it.
Oh
Samantha,
yeah.
I don't know if you do you want add anything else on the Close Riker series, or just any of your favorite interviews or anything you want to say about that?
Um, honestly, just like the interviews themselves were just like so informative, and I was like nervous to interview at first. One of the first interviews was actually the CEO of the shelter that I had stayed in when I was first when I had came home. So I mean her so cool.
Okay.
Shout out to Tia Taylor. That's my girl. Um she has been so supportive. Even now, like recently we went to the Beyond the Bars conference or whatever, and she was there and she was just like so happy. She was the first person to be interviewed. Like she was just so happy to see that I am where I am now. And at first, when I came home, I was 19. I was angry. I didn't really understand much of anything, and I was just locked up in jail for 6 months. So, like coming home and doing other interviews, and especially being a part of the Independent Records Commission and just meeting echoes, like I'm just so grateful for everything, all the chain of events, good and bad. Because if I never got incarcerated, probably would have never been with echoes. Even though my father was
Mm,
incarcerated, but I
okay.
feel like that doesn't really bother me because that wasn't when like that was his past life. So that doesn't really interfere with me now. But the
Hmm.
just overall the interviews and just like becoming a better person day by day and taking like all the meditative skills and grounding techniques we have at work, like I could apply that non-consciously outside. Like if I see, I'm in a situation and I'm feeling at a level 3, I know what to do. Like I know what to do. I know how to handle that. And it's not in like a hey therapeutic kind of way, but it's a stable work environment, and I love it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I'll toss in some plugs for our upcoming projects. We have a lot of freelance
Do
projects
it.
we're doing. We're kind of always juggling a bunch of freelance projects. So, like for
Yeah.
example, Linda and I on Tuesday are driving up to a facility, Greenhaven in New York, a New York State prison facility, and filming a clemency video. So somebody I think has done like 30 years on a non-violent drug offense and is applying for clemency. And so they're having a video. So like a group of a legal team contacted us like, hey, can you come and film and edit this video? So like little things like that kind of always pop up. Samantha went and filmed a Native American powwow a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
And we're working with somebody who does a lot of like sound healing and kind of using like indigenous
Ooh,
healing techniques.
love
And
it.
wanted to interview. It's like, hey, we have all these elders gathered in one place. Can we interview them about native mindfulness and wellness and healing techniques? And so Samantha and another producer went into these interviews. So we're always juggling little things like that. In terms of our big series, we have two series that we're working on for 2026. One is I think I mentioned about restorative justice in schools. So we do a lot of work with different organizations that do RJ work. And I think in New York, I think a lot of places are like this where there's a big push to just like stop suspending people, use RJ. Teachers tried it and weren't trained enough or just didn't work. And they're like, no,
Okay.
let's go back to suspension. So it's like, yeah, it's really hard to get RJ to be implemented, to get trained people to change the culture of a school. So we're one of our projects is to kind of yeah, so we're trying to tell that story and like, hey, what does it actually work? Like, what does it actually take to replace suspensions, to end that school to prison pipeline, to create accountability and a space of safety and healing in schools. So
Hmm.
actually, so listeners out there, we're always looking to connect with good organizations who are doing that work. The other
Yeah.
one is we're slowly developing for a couple of years, but the New York City Mayor's Office contacted us in 2018, and they were doing some public events around how do you create community safety without police? Like, what are all the ways besides just sending more police to
Yeah.
an area that you can actually meaningfully create community safety? And so we had like only a couple of weeks and we ran around the city and documented like violence interrupters and credible messengers and organizations that use design and like architecture and design, people that
Hmm.
use youth employment. Just I'm missing a few, but just like so we had like a couple of weeks just to quickly do this. I'm like, oh, this is amazing, and there's so many interesting innovations happening. Like alternative first responders is a big movement around the country now about like replacing police response with mental health units. Um, and a lot of these are just effective and cheaper than hiring more police and have none of the, very few of the collateral consequences that just over policing has. So we've been thinking, okay, how do we really tell that story in a way that's engaging, that's lively, that's not just drag to watch? I won't get into it, but we're launching a series this year on just how all the ways to create community safety beyond police.
Wow. Okay, lots of excellent plugs. I'm so fascinated and want to see so much of this in action. So
We
I
sign
will
up for our
personally
mailing
be
list.
keeping, yeah, I'm like, I will be keeping an eye out for all of this. And I obviously recommend that to our listeners too. So we're going to do a Q&A. This is live from our audience. So Camila, she's going to hop on and run that with all of you. Hi, Camila.
Hello. So again, my name is Camilla. I'm here. I'm another intern for at Next Generation Media, and I'll be helping with the Q&A portion of today's episode, or what we call maximizing the moment. I want to begin by thanking Jeremy, Samantha, and Linda for coming on today's show and speaking on the topic of digital storytelling for social justice, as well as echoes of incarceration. So let's begin with the first question that we have. The first one is, what advice would you give someone who's currently where you once were?
Me personally, the advice I would give is just like it's easier said than done, especially like in the moment. But just find the light at the end of the tunnel. Like it's not the end of the world. It may feel like it, but it's not. As long as, like, honestly, you don't even really need anyone for real. Like, a good team and good support is very much needed, but you have to believe and trust in yourself, because if you don't believe and trust in yourself, nobody's going to believe or trust you.
Thank you.
Linda, you want to add to that? Or you want to move on to the next question?
Oh, yeah, I just added just a little bit. I think that's pretty much wrapped. But basically, it's okay to lean on your fellow peers and your community, and just kind of like, I guess, be open to new ideas or open to things that you're not used to, which is like kind of like going into the community, kind of signing up for organizations and like after school programs, things like that. And you'll be surprised how kind of like entering into a community or like an organization, like the right organization for you, can literally change your outlook and your perspective and just like your life. And like, to be dramatic, but like it does change your life if you meet the right kind of people and surround yourself with the right kind of people with a good mindset. It can literally change the trajectory of your life, for the better.
Thank you. All good? Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question. What is your measure of success for the young people?
I want to hear them. I'm always doing grant reports and have to struggle with this one. Samantha and Linda, help me out here. What's the measure of success? How, like, thinking about the last units we just did, how do we know when we've done a good job?
For one, just like, I guess, in terms of feeling proud of like the work done, but I guess just the feedback that we get from people who watch films, people who support our work, and even people who have no idea what we're doing get a glimpse of it, and like we just get so much positive feedback. I think is one way that we feel. Well, I feel that like this is like, feeling good about this, and like also just like the little small changes that does happen in the community, whether it's bills being passed or like things like that, I feel like is another way. Um, but just overall, just like personally feeling like, I guess, like feeling accomplished, that like I'm doing something positive with my life, and just feeling happy and like fulfilled, I guess, if that makes sense. Every time I go into work, or every time we like finish a project, um, just meeting new young people and like hearing stories, just like all of it, I feel like is very fulfilling. And so I guess that's when I know like all those things combined. Hopefully I answered the question correctly.
I think so. Thank you.
Um, sorry, just happening real. I mean, as far as cohorts, like at the end of each session, if everyone like fully participated in circle, fully partic like participated in meditation. Like, I don't know, like you can feel in your soul when we did good. Like
Mhm.
the room is just filled with good vibes. Everyone is happy, fun, excited, but also on track and like super focused into like what we got going on. So focused that sometimes we run over time just a little bit. But I feel like that's like in my mind, I feel like that's a good session. Like that's how we know we're impacting as many people as we can. And also when they come back, like when
Mhm.
we see the same names on the sign up sheet for the next cohort, we'll be like, okay, we're doing something. And then like some of the crew members or some of the participants, they'll bring their friends or introduce their friends to Echoes. And like that's always a plus because the more
Mhm.
people who know, the more people we can help. So I feel like that's how we've met us.
Yeah, thank you. Then Jeremy, if you want to add anything.
I just say it's always a challenge anytime doing youth development to kind of like measure impact. Everybody, grows at their own pace and in their own way, and just starts and stops and 2 steps forward, 6 steps back sometimes. But I would say I think like I struggle with how to put this into grant reports, but like I think more and more about the strength of the community. Like, do we have a good community? Do we have a well functioning structure where people are noticed, being held to a high standard of professionalism and skill, but also we have the tools to kind of care for people who are struggling. And there's levels of like, there's like a junior crew, and is the junior crew getting feedback? And is there the senior crew, are they supporting the senior crew? And does the senior crew have the tools they need? So I think when everything's functioning well, it's much more impactful than just a single like it's hard to capture that, but like if everything is going well, you enter that space and then you can grow at your own pace and latch on to the mentors that you need and latch on to the skill sets that you need. So it's and can kind of, but it's not really like one person who's doing that work. It's kind of like the entire environment. So I guess that's a long way of saying like what I think is with the impact I'm hoping is to create a really strong community that people can then enter and get what they need from.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that is all the time that I have for the Q&A portion. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rachel. Thank you again so much for answering those questions.
Thanks, Camila. Yeah, so we are right at the end of our episode, so we will close this out. Thank you all again for being here today. This has been such a great conversation. I learned so much, and there's a lot of information I'm going to check out from you guys after this. I'm really looking forward to seeing this Rikers series in particular, and kind of what's going on with that. But again, thank you all, Echoes, for being here. And to everyone that's listening, thank you so much for joining. Please tell your friends and family about what you've learned on this episode today. Also, don't forget to share this video and subscribe to our channels. Please stay informed about what's going on in your community, in your country, and take care of each other. And we will see you all here next time on the JustUS Youth Talk Show. Goodbye, and thank you all for being here.
Welcome to Echoes, where we teach filmmaking and restorative journalism. Today is our interviewing and documenting workshop. First, we start with watching and critiquing a film. This gives everyone a chance to settle in and focus. Once we're settled in, we do circle practice. Then we begin to meditate, with Sugar Ray leading a guided meditation and debrief, which is sometimes the best part. Now it's time to get to work. Today we're teaching the different roles in a multi-camera interview set. For roles, we have interviewer, main cameras, BTS camera, audio, floor manager, and of course, interviewee.
Good.
Then we eat together, and we get to watch back footage. We end with what we call the closing jar, basically a final circle round saying one thing we take away from the day. Another day of creating peace, beauty, healing, while looking fly. See you next time. Peace.